What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today we are reviewing Oppenheimer, the second movie of the massive double header that was Barbie slash Oppenheimer. I already reviewed the Barbie movie, pretty good movie, but if I had to pick which one is better, it's definitely Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer, obviously, a bit more aimed at me as like the target audience, and I actually did go and watch this one on release night. And yeah, the cinema was full. Like it was full. Like every seat was booked for this. Yeah, and I'm just gonna come out and say it straight away. I think Oppenheimer is a masterpiece. The more I reflect on it, the better it gets for me. It was just such a good movie. It's just right up my alley. I mean, I like Christopher Nolan as a director anyway, because I like Interstellar, Inception. There's a lot of movies of his that are just kind of already considered classics. And I think this might be the best of the bunch, or at least it will be right up there with his best movies. And that's saying a lot. Getting into my expectations for this movie, I mean, this movie has had an insane build up. I feel like both this and Barbie had an excellent marketing campaign that built a lot of anticipation around it. I've been seeing Oppenheimer trailers since like this time last year, and they were showing the whole ticking of the bomb, which might have been a bit misrepresentative of the movie because I thought there's a lot of people who are going to come and watch this movie probably wanting to see explosions and see the building of the bomb. And really, that's kind of a background feature of this movie. It's literally a biopic on the man Oppenheimer, which is a nice change, you know what I mean? Because I feel like he doesn't get a lot of recognition. I mean, everyone connects his name to it, but he doesn't. No one really knows a lot about him. And it was nice to see kind of the man behind the bomb. I guess it was really good. I liked it. I'm sure there will be some people who don't, but yeah, personally, I really enjoyed this movie. My expectations for this, like I said, they were through the roof. I was expecting one of the best movies of the year, and I got that. To be fair, it was really good. I think this is probably the best movie I've seen all year. I mean, it's right there with Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It's very hard to compare the two because one's animated, but those for me are the top two, and then Guardians of the Galaxy 3 right behind. But without further ado, let's get into all the good stuff about Oppenheimer. The first thing I want to talk about is a lot of people talk about how the sound was really good. I feel like for the most part, the sound was really good. The way they used it, the score is always excellent in Christopher Nolan movies. You think of like the Inception and Interstellar soundtracks, like they got Hans Zimmer to do it, and it was insane. I'm pretty sure the Oppenheimer one is also very good. The way they use sound is very good to build tension in moments where maybe it could be a little boring or it wouldn't be as entertaining. They use sound very well. The next good thing is that it's a biopic on Oppenheimer. I mentioned this briefly earlier in the video, but this isn't just the atomic bomb movie where they just show you how they built the bomb and everything to do with the bomb, and then they blow it up a few times to show tests and show you cool effects with the bomb blowing up and stuff. This is a story of Oppenheimer. You get to see him in his early life, you get to see him throughout the Manhattan Project, and then you get to see him later in life where he was kind of put on trial and stuff like that. And it all kind of comes full circle. You get to see like his moral qualms, I guess, with building the bomb, and you get to see throughout the movie a lot of the conflicting thoughts he had in his head, and you get to see that he wasn't a perfect guy. There was a lot of things going on with him that were pretty fucked up as well in his personal life, which was interesting to see. I don't know how much of it was embellished and how much of it is actually facts. I'll have to research that, but we'll discount that for a while. If it is all true, they did a very good job. I just like the format. I like the format of the biopic. Yes, it could maybe be a little bit restricting, but I think they executed it very well. One thing I want to add about the format of this movie is the way it jumps around sort of time zones and time eras. Like we go back in time, forward in time. It doesn't just show you a linear story of his life, which I think makes the movie a lot more entertaining. How we're kind of jumping through different periods and it all connects towards the end of the movie. Because if it was just a linear line of his life, I don't think it would have been as entertaining as engaging as it was. So yeah, I really like the switching of time zones, also the use of some scenes are black and white, some scenes are full color. I think that also adds a different dimension to this movie, which makes it a lot more watchable and a lot more entertaining. I'll briefly mention the special effects and stuff because I think it was really cool. You know, they didn't use CGI apparently, and the way they blew up the bomb and showed all these cool scenes, that was obviously very well done as well. Next thing I want to talk about is the acting in this movie. I mean, they had an all-star cast, you know what I mean? They had Cillian Murphy. Is it Cillian Murphy? Is it Gillian Murphy? I don't know how to pronounce his name. But they got Tommy Shelby. That's the best way to put it. They got Iron Man. They got Robert Downey Jr. They had like Emily Blunt in there. They had Florence Pugh in there. They had a Matt Damon in there. They had a lot of kind of A-list actors. I think it all meshed very well together, and they all did a really good job, especially Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr. I think they were excellent. It's been a long time since I've seen Robert Downey Jr. in any movie that isn't Iron Man or the Avengers. It was nice to see him play a different role because for the most part he was kind of typecast in these Iron Man roles. You think of like Sherlock Holmes is another one. They're very similar characters, but this one he's kind of playing a very different character, and it was nice to see that he has an ultimate acting range. I think Cillian Murphy is very underrated. Came to real fame with like the Tommy Shelby and Peaky Blinders thing, but yeah, he's one of my favorite actors. Top tier, did a really good job as Oppenheimer. Perfectly cast. Also, Matt Damon. I wish they gave Matt Damon some more lines in this. You know what I mean? I think he did a really good job as like the sergeant or the general. That was really cool to see. I just want to give some props to Matt Damon. I feel like he's very underrated actually. Like he done great in like The Martian. He's in Interstellar. There's another movie this year about the Michael Jordan shoe deal with Nike. What's it called? Air. He was really good in that. He was the main character in that. I think he did great there. He was great in this. So shout out to Matt Damon. What a guy. It's kind of like Batista, just underrated. The next thing I want to talk about is the length, because when you see a 3 hour runtime, you probably get put off. Like there's plenty of movies I see on Netflix that are classics. Like for example, Lawrence of Arabia, right? Apparently it's a classic, one of the greatest movies of all time, and I see that its runtime is like 3 hours and 45 minutes. I'm like, fuck that, I ain't gonna watch it right now. You have to find the time for it. Personally, though, I think this is well worth the runtime. Is there a few moments where it slows down a little bit and it gets a little less entertaining? Maybe, but for the most part, I was pretty gripped throughout the entire 3 hours. It did feel a little shorter than that, in fact. And it's not like, oh, there's another scene and another scene and another scene, because I've done a lot of movie reviews this year of movies that are 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and I've commented many times that the movie was just too long. And this time, I think they got it perfect with the length. In fact, they could have even done it longer. I would have sat through it because I thought it was really good. And the final thing I want to talk about, which is a minor spoiler if you don't know the lore, which I didn't, but I guess it's not. If you want to skip this bit for like the next few seconds, I'll leave a timestamp where you can see like the little chapters in the bottom. I want to tell you what they did to make the story way more compelling is how they used Robert Downey Jr.'s character as kind of like a twist villain in a way. Like he's meant to be like Oppenheimer's nemesis, and he kind of tried to fuck him over. And I thought that was really well done because they don't really expose Robert Downey Jr. character as kind of like the villain or the rival right until like the last 20, 30 minutes. And it has like this switch where you think he was a pretty decent character who was involved, and then you see that he was kind of evil in a way, or just doing what he thought was right to benefit him. And I thought the way they did it was really, really well done. And it kind of just added that extra layer of, I don't know, that extra layer to the movie, which I really like. But yeah, that's the majority of the good things that I've written down and I can remember. I mean, the whole atomic bomb thing was amazing. The cast was all amazing, like I said. The tension they did when building the bomb, because the bomb is a very small part of this movie, by the way. I just want to reiterate. If you just want to go there to see stuff about the atomic bomb, you're not going to see it. If you want to see them drop the bomb on like Hiroshima or Nagasaki, you're not going to see that either. Because I think they really wanted to focus on Oppenheimer and not the bomb for this movie, which I think turned out very well. Now let's talk about some of the bad things, because there is a few bad things with this movie. It's not a perfect movie. I don't think there is any perfect movies, but there is a few little niggly things that did get a bit annoying, and it doesn't really affect the overall scope of the movie. But yeah, there's just a few things that were a bit niggly for me. The first thing I want to talk about is the sound, right? Because the sound in the first, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, it wasn't mixed extremely well, at least like the music with the voices. Like there was a long period of the movie where I'm turning to my friend saying, what did he say? And he's turning to me saying, what did he say? Because the music was kind of overpowering, the sound was louder than the voices, and I was missing a lot of the conversation, especially in like the first 30 minutes. It got way better as the movie went on, but I just feel like I was missing key bits of information. There was one specific scene where I remember the music was just way too loud. Like the music was way louder, it was drowning everything out, and it was kind of ruining the scene, and I wasn't catching everything. And I remember saying to my friend, hey, I need subtitles because I can't understand everything that they're saying, or I can't even hear everything that they're saying. And I thought maybe it could be a problem with like the cinema I went to, but after seeing other people talk about it, I see it with the movie, the sound wasn't mixed particularly well at the start. For the rest of the movie, it's fine, but for the first 20, 30 minutes, there's a bit of a problem. The next thing I want to talk about is just the insane cast of characters. Because there's so many people involved, there's so many characters, it's very hard to keep track of who is who and what their significance is to the story. And because the movie's got so many and not enough screen time for all of them, you don't have enough depth from them. You can't even remember who is who for the most part, or why they're there, or what they're doing. And of course, because of the length, they can't actually explore each part of it, right? They just kind of introduce the character, say that this is their role, and then there's not too much done with them. Of course, there's a few characters who have a little bit more depth, but there was plenty of times where someone comes back on screen and like, what was his role again? What was his role again? Why is he in the movie? Who is this guy like? That can be very difficult. I'm sure if you rewatch the movie a few times, you'll be able to grasp it all. But it can be very overwhelming trying to remember who is who and what their role is, considering there's just so many characters and people involved. Of course, for some people, the length is going to put them off. I mean, personally, I would implore you to go watch it. It's worth experiencing this movie at least once. I say the same thing with The Irishman that came out like however many years ago it was now. It was a massive hit on Netflix that one year. I remember I put it off for a while, watched it, and it was a great movie. I really enjoyed it. And I think Oppenheimer's a very similar thing. You just need to find one day and sit through it, and you will thoroughly enjoy the experience. But I'm sure the length for some people is a bit of trouble. And with the whole so many character thing, you might need to rewatch it to grasp everything, and that might be a bit of a handicap for people. And the last thing I want to talk about was it a little bit handicapped by the fact that it was a biopic and they were stuck to do certain things? Like, I'm sure they left out a lot of the more boring, minute details, but of course, you have to add certain things in there that may be irrelevant to the story or may try and develop his character more. Like, there was a lot of things that you may say were irrelevant to the entire story, like him being a communist or his brother being a communist or stuff like that. But I think for the overall arcing story, it was good. Sometimes I just have this niggling thought: was it a bit handicapped by the fact that it was a biopic movie? And of course, if they could just make up and embellish the story, it may be more entertaining. I don't think it affected it much. It's something to keep in mind. Anyway, overall, what would I rate this movie? I gave this movie on Letterboxd. I initially gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Then I changed it to a 5 out of 5. I'm trying to be more liberal with my ratings now because, I'm not giving a lot of movies 5 out of 5. Like I said at the beginning, this is probably the best movie I'll see this year. It's definitely going to win a bunch of awards. I'll be shocked if Tommy Shelby doesn't win Best Actor for this. I'd be shocked if Robert Downey Jr. isn't in the running. I'm sure the score and the special effects and everything will be up there for winning awards come award season for this movie, because it is one of the best movies I've ever seen, I think, and definitely probably the best movie of this year. Like I said, Across the Spider-Verse is there, but the ending for Across the Spider-Verse might drop it a little bit down. But yeah, overall, Oppenheimer, I give it a solid 9. I give it a solid 9.2 out of 10. It's not a perfect 10 out of 10, and it doesn't crack like maybe my top 10 movies of all time, but it's definitely right there, and it's definitely right there for being Christopher Nolan's best movie ever. Right up there with Inception, Interstellar, all those great movies he made. It fits right in, and I think it's just a unique movie. And there's another movie that's similar coming out later in the year, which is Napoleon, which is gonna, I guess, be a biopic on Napoleon, which looks really good from the trailers. So I'd be excited to see how that compares to Oppenheimer. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know your thoughts on Oppenheimer in the comments. Probably, I'd say it's definitely my favorite movie of the year. Definitely deserved all the hype, lived up to the hype and more. But yeah, that's all I got for you today. I'll see you all in the next one.